I've built over 100 AI presentations, but only 3 of them are worth your time if you have a business or if you want to start making these as a side hustle. These are the only ones that can turn attention into sales, money, and clients. They can completely change how much money you make. That's why I'm going to show you how to create them in less than 5 minutes, and a strategy you can use for each of them to get even better results. And stick to the end, because the last one is the best. Now let's get into it. Okay, so the first one is the one that decides whether a company will be worth hundreds of thousands or billions. In 2016, Front was a startup making around $100,000 in monthly revenue. It was good money, but not great. So the founder, Mathilde Collin, spent 90% of her time building a pitch deck to raise funds from investors. She pitched to 11 investors over 5 days, and by the end of the 5th day, 10 of those investors made her an offer. In 10 days, she closed a $10 million investment for her company. That's how much a great pitch deck can help a startup. And this isn't the only example of how powerful a good pitch deck can be. Companies like Uber and LinkedIn needed funding to become what they are today. Even Anthropic, one of the biggest AI companies in the world, looked for investors last year. So a pitch deck can make millions for every company, whether it's yours or you're creating pitch decks for other people, but only if the pitch deck is good. Thanks to AI, there are hundreds of companies and startups being created every week. So getting attention from investors is harder than ever. Most investors won't give any of these companies a second chance to talk. So at best, the person pitching only has one shot. And if the pitch deck is weak, that person could lose the opportunity of their life. So to ensure you, or whoever is pitching, doesn't mess up, here are the 3 principles that Front's founder used. The first one is to lead with the problem, not the product. Mathilde didn't open by explaining the features of her software. She opened with one problem that investors could recognize. She talked about how annoying it was to have shared team inboxes because messages get lost, and that affects the workflow of a company. This was the problem that Front solved. And by explaining the problem first, the investors understood that this was a problem they or someone they knew faced. That meant there were people out there trying to solve this problem. The second principle is discipline over volume. Front's founder said that there's a temptation to add every metric you have into the presentation. So she cut every metric that didn't add to the story she tried to show. And instead of trying to impress everyone with random metrics, she only used the ones that were important. Most people won't remember all the metrics, so ensure that the metrics covered in the presentation are the most important ones. The third principle is to prove it at the right moment. Imagine you go to watch a movie, but before the movie even begins, someone yells the end of the movie. I don't know about you, but most people wouldn't want to watch it anymore, because the only reason the ending of a movie is good or satisfying is because of everything that comes before that. The story, the problems, and the redemption arc. These things give the ending impact. And it's the same thing with a pitch deck. Mathilde didn't start by saying how much money or how many users Front had. She proved that her company was worth investing in at the right moment. She built the story first, then finished it with the numbers that investors care about to make a decision. Those are the 3 principles that any pitch deck should follow. Lead with the problem, stay disciplined, and prove it at the right moment. Now I'm going to show you how to create a pitch deck using these principles in less than 5 minutes. First of all, I'd go to Gamma.app. If you don't know what Gamma is, it's an AI design tool that turns a single prompt into a finished presentation. But you can also continue editing using AI, creating images, graphics, changing the layout of slides, and pretty much everything you'd want to edit. You can start using it for free, so if you want to follow along and build the presentations in this video, you can click the link in the description. So once you create your free account, this is what you'll see. Now go to create new AI, click on generate, and select presentation. Then you can write what you want in that text box. For this example, I'm going to generate a pitch deck for Gamma using this prompt. Create a pitch deck for Gamma, an AI design tool that builds full presentations from a single prompt. The audience is investors and everyday tech decision makers, so keep the language jargon-free. The goal is to persuade them that the opportunity is real, timely, and defensible. Use a confident, clean, and story-first tone. Keep one idea per slide, and cap the text density so there are no walls of text. Move cleanly from problem to solution to proof to the question. Mission, the problem with data. Solution, market size, and why now. Traction, business model. Team, competition, and the moat. Roadmap, and a specific ask. Here's the context you need. Then I'll just paste my quick research about Gamma so it has more context about what we're going to pitch. Now you just click on Edit Prompt, and you'll see this dashboard. Here you can choose some settings for your pitch deck. You can choose text density control with options from minimal up to extensive. For a pitch deck, I would choose minimal or concise. You can also fill things like audience and tone, but in these cases, Gamma already picked that from our prompt. Then select your language and a theme. For this one, we'll use the Gamma Dark theme. Then you can select the image source from AI generated images, stock photos, or even GIFs. We'll keep the AI images with the illustration style and the auto selection model. Then we'll increase the number of cards to 12 and click on generate. And this is what we'll get from just one prompt. As you can see, it follows the structure that we mentioned in the prompt. It goes through the mission, the problem with the data, the solution, market size, and why now, traction, business model, team, competition and the moat, roadmap, and a specific ask. And it actually creates a slide for something that a lot of people don't think about. On this slide, you can add a video showing a short demo of what your startup does. You just go to the left sidebar, select videos and media, then select the source. In this example, I'm going to add my complete tutorial on Gamma, but keep in mind that your demo should be shorter and straight to the point. So I'm going to click on YouTube and paste the URL to my video. You can edit the preview, but for now, we'll keep it as is. And now I can show a real example of what your product does so the investors can see how effective it is, which will make your presentation 10 times more engaging. Okay, so this next presentation is slowly becoming the new way for personal brands to make money, webinars. And the reason is simple. The purpose of a webinar is to teach people something that they could do before you ask them to buy. That builds trust. And trust is what makes people want to buy from you. Think about the difference from the buyer's perspective. When someone gets into a long sales page about your product, they're not going to read everything. They'll skip all the important things that can make them buy and go straight into the price. And if they don't like the price, they'll just leave. But that's not a problem with your price. It's just that they skip the information that justifies it. But when they get into a webinar, they want to hear what you have to say and have to follow along with you. So you can make sure to give them all the information they need to make a decision and buy from you. But here's why most webinars won't turn into sales. They either treat it like an infomercial where they teach nothing and pitch too hard, or they teach everything, over-deliver for an hour, and then get shy and never actually make the offer. In both cases, the result is the same. They're not getting sales. But there's a simple formula you can follow to make sure that people buy at the end. First, you need to open with a hook. This is a clear promise of what they'll learn on the webinar. Remind them why they're there and why they should stay. Then, show them the roadmap. This is a simple slide where you show them the roadmap that the webinar will follow, and it'll give your viewers a clear idea of what you're going to cover. Then, follow with what they actually came for, the information. But like I said before, you don't want to over-deliver and turn a webinar into a course. Keep it simple with just 3 teaching blocks, and add a question between each of these blocks. This way, you ensure they're paying attention and also dismiss any objections they could have. After this step, you have to remind them of the value. Make a short summary of everything they learned and what they could do with that information. Be clear on the transformation they went through so they remember how much value they got from you. And only then can you move into the pitch. But here's a trick for a great pitch. It should feel like a next step or a shortcut, not as something they need to have to get the outcome you promised. So focus on how your offer can get them there in an easier or faster way. Now, let's create a webinar presentation with this structure. This will be the same process as before. Open Gamma, click Create New AI, and select Presentation. For this example, we're going to generate a presentation for a webinar that talks about how people can start a business with their first digital product. But you can change the topic for your own offer. This is the prompt we're going to use. You could just pause the video and copy it or take a screenshot. Create a webinar presentation that teaches someone how to build a business with their first digital product. The audience are beginners who want to start an online business but have never sold anything before. The goal is to teach 3 concrete wins first, then transition to a paid offer as a logical next step, a digital product starter pack that includes tutorials on how to create 10 different digital products, how to run ads for them, lessons on scaling the business, and ready-to-use Etsy listing templates. Use a warm, energetic, teacher not seller tone. Structure as a hook and promise slide, an agenda slide, a proof slide that lays out the roadmap and shows real people who followed it and what they achieved, 3 teaching segments that each include 1 live example and a spot for a poll or a question, a value recap transition slide, and a clear offer slide that frames the starter pack as the shortcut to everything I just taught and lists exactly what's inside. Keep it to 3 learning outcomes only, and keep the slides visual and light on text so the deck supports me talking. Here's the context you need. Then simply replace the context with the information about the topic and your offer. For the text settings, you still want the text density on the lighter side, but here you also want to lean more into the visuals. A webinar presentation should support what you say, so people aren't reading it and getting distracted. You can add this as a rule in the additional instructions box. I'll just type. The text should be concise, but each slide should focus more on the visuals. Now, for webinar presentation, something warmer will work better, so I'll choose the Dune theme. I want to show you the other illustration styles, so for this, I'm going to choose continuous line art. We select 14 slides and generate our webinar presentation, and here's what we get. It has the structure that I told you before, and it looks amazing. We could take this presentation and use it for a webinar and actually make sales. But you could take it a step further. You could show them how easy it is to do something. For example, in this presentation, there's this slide that talks about a live example of building an ebook. And that shouldn't just stay as a slide. It should be a short section where you build the ebook and show them how to do it. This way, you show them your expertise, how easy it is to start, and that they can replicate your process. Think about this like a cooking show. They don't just show you the final dish. They show you the whole process to do it. And that's the value you get from watching it. The same thing applies to a webinar. Okay, so this last presentation is the most underrated of the three, but it's the one I'd tell almost anyone to build first. Because if you get this right, you'll have something that can grow your sales on autopilot. I'm talking about a lead magnet. A lead magnet is how you get people's emails, and more importantly, their trust. When someone hands over their email, they're placing a small bet on you. And what you give them back either proves you know what you're doing, or it proves you don't. The best way to look at this is like an audition. Not even the best actors have a free ticket to play a role in a movie. They have to do an audition so they can prove that they're the best ones for the role. And with a lead magnet, you can show potential clients you are the best one to help them. The problem is that most lead magnets make 3 mistakes. The first one is lack of value. The idea of a lead magnet is to give a quick win to your leads. The faster they can get an outcome they want, the more they'll trust in your expertise. And the more they trust it, the more they're willing to spend to get more of it. The second one is that they're too lazy. Lazy doesn't mean simple. Lazy means they just took the information from ChatGPT and turned it into a PDF. And that's how they lose the trust of all the people who got it. And the final mistake is the opposite of lack of value. It lacks clarity. People don't want to read walls of text to get the outcome they want. They want a shortcut. That's why they're paying with their email. The best lead magnets solve one specific problem and deliver a quick win. So including all the information you can in a lead magnet isn't a good idea if you want them to get a quick result. If you can avoid these 3 mistakes, your lead magnet will help you get more sales for your offer. And now I'm going to show you how you can build one using Gamma and Claude. For this example, we're going to create a mini course on how to build a good landing page for a lead magnet or newsletter in one day. And I'm going to use this prompt. Create a lead magnet that's a short mini course and template on how to build a high converting opt-in page that turns visitors into subscribers. The audience is creators and small business owners who want more email subscribers but keep getting weak sign-up rates. The goal is to deliver one fast, implementable win that earns the email and the trust, so focus on a single specific outcome instead of covering everything. Make it genuinely useful and specific, not generic filler. Include real templates, exact steps, and fill in the blank copy that they can act on immediately. Use a clean, confident, genuinely helpful tone. Keep it to 10 to 20 cards, 1 idea per card, strong headings, and plenty of white space so it reads like a shortcut, not a wall of text. Also, some of the images you create should be a mock-up of an opt-in page, highlighting the part they're creating. End with a closing slide that points to the next step. Now, for this presentation, I'm going to choose a minimal text, the keepsake theme, and a technical line for the art style. And this is the result. And I'm pretty sure that if I give this information to someone, they'll have a better landing page today. It has all of the necessary information to teach them something, along with templates and instructions to do everything fast. Now, here's how to make it better than 90% of your lead magnets. Remind people about your offer. This might sound like something obvious, but you'd be surprised when people forget about this. Mentioning your offer inside the actual lead magnet will constantly remind them about it. So after they get the outcome you promised, it would be easier for them to get more if they want to. But this doesn't have to feel like you're forcing them to buy. It should just feel like a friendly reminder. For example, to add it here, I'm going to click on the agent button at the top and type this in the chat. Create a single closing CTA slide pitching my paid offer, a sales funnel template bundle with ready-to-use sales page, email sequence, and LinkedIn carousel templates, each paired with a step-by-step guide. Frame it as a natural next step and the shortcut to building their whole funnel. And this is what it created. Of course, you can adapt the content to your own offer and business by just giving the agent your information. This way, your leads will have a natural next step to follow if they want to get more from you. These 3 presentation styles have generated thousands for personal brands, businesses, and companies. And you could build them for your business or side hustle in just 5 minutes using Gamma. But the best presentations are the ones that adapt to you and your business. A prompt can handle 90% of the job, but the last 10% are the changes you make, the things you add, and your perspective. And all those things can also be done in minutes with Gamma AI features. I go through all these things that you could do with Gamma in this video right here. So go watch it now to master it in 12 minutes.